Hi, welcome back to Cheyenne, Wyoming Urban Gardener. This is Debbie, and today is July 21st. And we are out here looking at the container garden. And what we're looking at is how sustainable or how good the containers actually work for plants. And I've done an experiment on this for now a few years. And I would say that container gardening works quite well if you know all of the ins and outs and the tips and tricks to get you through container gardening. For myself, if you are looking at containers, then get your containers as cheaply as you possibly can. For larger containers like these larger terracotta colored containers, I got those at Dollar Tree. Back when things were still $1 at the Dollar Tree. They're probably $1.67 now. I think that's what they went to, or $1.25. So I've got those, and they're large containers. They're probably at least 3.5 to 4 gallon containers. I thought they were 3 gallon there for a while, but I think they're actually 3.5 to 4 gallon. And then we got this container, which is a very thick walled clay pot. I got that on clearance at Home Depot for $4.98. Probably the most expensive that I have, the most expensive that I have paid for so far as containers go. But I actually got those to use as decoration if I wanted to put them around we don't really have front porches, we have stoops. Because our front porch is actually enclosed. So we got those to really use as decorator around the stoops, and those are still actually available out at Home Depot. So you might want to check with your Home Depot. I think they're called Michelle pots, clay pots. They are 15-inch. I do have some that were 12-inch, but these are the 15-inch, and the 12-inch and the 15-inch are actually the same price. So I wish I had known that when I went to go get and found the 12-inch, thinking that I had a great deal then, which was still a great deal, especially for a decorative clay pot like that. But I wish I'd have gotten the 15 inches at that time. But I ended up going back and getting 6 more. So I basically bought all that they had except for 2. There were 2 that were stuck together and they could not get them apart. We tried and tried and tried to get them apart. We even wet the clay pots with a water hose trying to get them apart, and they still wouldn't come apart. Kind of wish now that I just went ahead and gotten them, and I could have tried some oil or something like that here at home and probably successfully gotten them apart, or just lightly tapped them or something. But anyway, they were $4.98 at Home Depot. You might want to check that out. Again, they were called Michelle. They have a little decorative edging on the clay. And then some of the other pots, which I know now are more expensive, I got the square foot pots at Menards, and at the time when I bought them, they were 98 cents, and I think now they are up to $2.98. So it might not be something cost efficient for you. I would probably look for those maybe at a Goodwill or something like that, and I usually end up getting Goodwill pots. Doesn't matter if they're clay or they're polymer or plastic or whatever. I've been getting those for $1. So I've gotten some of those. Again, these 2 terracotta are again from Dollar Tree. Those were $1 at the time. They are now probably $1.25 or $1.67. And I haven't really seen them have pots that large anymore out here at the Dollar Tree. And they also did not have the stackable gardening system that they had a couple of years ago that I wish that I had gotten then. But I'm kind of a mixed bag on whether I want to do the stackable gardening anyway, because there's some issues that I've seen with that. A lot of people have good experience with them, but I think a lot of times that the plants in those kind of stackable containers can become stunted. So I don't know. I'm kind of a give and take on that one, which I do a lot of in-ground planting and don't really do raised garden beds for some of that same reason. Also, raised garden beds deplete of nutrients quite quickly. They're like just having a large container. So you do have to put a lot of amendments and things like that into raised garden beds that I've seen, unless you're getting really the high-end workup on those. And so anyway, the container gardening, as far as that goes, is doing very well here. We've got some garden sage and rosemary over here. And this is with a composite container. I got that one at probably Lowe's or something like that. I paid 98 cents for that. And you don't start all at once unless you've got the budget for it. What I did with my containers is that I just kind of bought them over time. Over the past few years, I've just kept accumulating more until now I have over 100 different containers. But still, altogether, if you put all the 100 together and what I've paid for them, and a lot of them were free, then I wouldn't have paid very much for them. This clay container over here, I actually got in our garden shed when we moved in, so that one was free. It even had the little tray with it. And this container here, we ended up getting that at Dollar Tree and just drilling holes in the bottom of it. So that one was basically $1. All of these hanging pots were from flowers that I had gotten previously in the previous years and just continued saving year after year. So at this point, I would consider the pots free, but at the time when I purchased them, I got them at probably a sale at Walmart or something for around $5.88. And I think those same planter or same hanging pots this season with flowers in them were like $8.88. So they're not as cost efficient anymore, but I have used these over the past 6 years. The last time I actually purchased pots of flowers was last season, and I only got 2. I've just basically reused, and some of the pots actually came from Dollar Tree. This one came from Dollar Tree. That one came from Dollar Tree. So those were only $1. This one I got at Menards. And this one has an actual water tray in it. That one I got at Menards. And basically ended up with that plant almost for free because it was just in such bad shape when I got it. But a lot of the hanging pots that I have came from Dollar Tree or Dollar General or something like that. This container here, these two, my daughter bought a couple of years ago when she was going to do herbs, and she ended up not using them. So basically for me, they were free. And I've just kept reusing them every season. This one here came from Dollar Tree, I believe. These two were from Dollar Tree. I think I got this one at the Goodwill, and I may have paid $1 or $1.50 for that pot. Beautiful pot and nice and large. I think it's a little bit larger than the 15-inch ones, so probably 18-inch. This clay pot was here when we moved here, so that one was essentially free. It's not the best pot in the world, but it seems to really just work with my marjoram. When I planted my marjoram in it, my marjoram loved that pot. So sometimes you got to listen to the plants, what they like, what they don't like. All of the pots for the mints came from Dollar Tree, except for this one. This one is a clay pot that was inside of our garden shed when we moved here, so essentially it was free. These little hanging containers, we got those from Dollar Tree and just needed to drill holes in them. I think this container came from Tractor Supply, so probably was one of the more expensive containers that we bought, and it was just because my daughter really liked that logo on the front of it. So I think we may have paid $3 or so for this one. This is another composite container that was brought when I put out a notice to get some containers if anyone had any and they were no longer using them. And the nice lady brought a whole assortment of containers, so that one came from that. So essentially that was free, and thank you so much to her. That was just an amazing thing for her to do. This one was from the Dollar Tree. That one was also from Dollar Tree. And then this one is another of those Home Depot pots. These wire hanging baskets, most of them came from Dollar Tree, surprisingly enough. So all we had to add to these was the chains that went with them, because they had the wire baskets, but they did not have the chains. And probably they had the chains originally with them, and they probably got lost or something like that, or someone just misplaced them. So we got those at Dollar Tree, and then we just got the chains. And the chains, I think, were 98 cents at Menards. And it's just, the chains are 3-piece. They come together, and then they have a hook at the top. And then this one, I think we got this one at Goodwill, a couple of them. And they're really pretty, got all this nice little scroll work in them. So I think we got these for maybe $2. So they were a little bit more expensive than I normally pay for any type of container, but they were really pretty. And then we just added the chains to those as well, because the chains that came with them were actually a little bit too big. So that is those containers. And then of course we got these containers, these grow bags, basically 3 grow bags put together. We got those at Walmart and one at Menards. They were about the same price, and we paid a little bit more for those just because of my grandson. He wanted to try to grow some things, and I think those were $19.97 each. The Monrovia containers were also part of the containers that the nice lady brought. This clay pot came from our garden shed when we moved here, and a lot of these little small containers also were in the garden shed when we moved here, and then also some that I have purchased. Another one of those Michelle clay pots. This is the smaller 12-inch variety, and we've got our mints in those. So they did work out. I wish I had gotten them the bigger ones at that same price. We've got 2 more of those clay pots there. And this little tin came with a flower arrangement, and when the flower arrangement was done, we basically drilled holes in that one, so that one was technically free. These 2 galvanized steel containers came from Walmart, and I think I paid $19.99 for those, so a little bit more for those just because I really liked the design of them, and I do like the galvanized steel. The only thing is that they do get really, really hot. I haven't had as much issue with that this season because I've surrounded them with other containers, and that's kept them cooled off, and the lettuce have really loved being in there. And then of course some more of the Menards containers. Again, I bought those when they were 98 cents, not what they are now. And this one came with the Gerbera daisy. I just got this one at Walmart because it is purple, and my daughter likes purple, so went ahead and picked that up, and it came with the container. But again, most of the containers that we have out here came from Dollar Tree or Home Depot, or a couple of them were clearanced at Walmart. That one was $3. And this very large barrel was $3. Got that at Walmart. And I've got another one of those, a little bit smaller, but same design. Kiddie pool was something that my grandson used, and after it became unusable anymore, it got some holes in it, then we converted it into a garden bed for strawberries and things like that. So essentially that was just a reuse, recycle free. And we got this clay pot here at Goodwill, and that one was, I think it was actually $2 because it is so large and it is clay. More of the Dollar Tree containers, another Menards container, and I think some of the square foot ones I got at Dollar Tree as well, so some of those may have been $1. Some of the composite containers are reuse, recycle from other plants, so essentially free. And that is basically all of the containers that we have out through here in varying sizes. Again, we have over 100 containers. I stopped count when I got to about 70 something, so I think we've got about 100 to a little over 100 containers, just in different sizes and varieties. So you can grow in containers if you have enough containers. And I talked about this a little bit in one of the previous videos about, can you sustainably do that? Can you do enough to feed a family? You could if you have enough containers. And it would depend on the size of your family, how many containers that you can handle, so on and so forth. But I am doing very well in containers. I haven't really found anything that I cannot grow in containers. It just depends on what the plant is to the size of the container that it would go into. I could even grow corn in containers, and I've seen other people do that successfully. It just would have to be a large enough container, and you would have to have the containers sitting together, so that way when the corn is of the size where it tassels and it needs to pollinate, that they are close enough together to be able to do that. So you could essentially grow everything that you want in containers. It just would take a lot of containers for you to do so. And unless you're getting those containers at some sort of a reduced price, free, reusing, recycling, things like that. It may not be cost effective for you to do so because you also have to get the soil. If you make your own soil, that would be the best way to be more cost efficient. If you're having to buy soil, like I've bought soil, then it can become more expensive because each of those bags of soil for the really good soil is around $10 to $12, depending on what brand that you're getting. And then, of course, you have to also put nutrients into those containers because they deplete of nutrients rather quickly versus planting in ground. So you do have to put in some sort of nutrients into those, whether it's something you're making yourself. You could do compost tea or your own compost, or making even your own fertilizers. You could do that. All it needs is some organic material, and it would supply nutrients for those containers. So anyway, that is the video for today. We're just talking about the containers. Is it sustainable? How have I enjoyed the containers? Has there been any limitations? And I hope I answered all of those questions for you, because I haven't really had any limitations or anything with growing in containers other than having to have more containers if I'm wanting to grow more than one thing. So anyway, like, subscribe, hit the notification bell for notices on new videos as they come out, and we shall see you in the next one.